Guys, I have breaking news to share. And I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this news, which I have a feeling are just not going to be all that popular. Hello, my beautiful motorheads. Welcome to FÉROCE, where we inspire you to live fiercely. I'm your host, Annick Magac. So you're probably wondering, hey, Annick, what is this news? And why are you outside again? Well, I had all this content prepared for this week, and I decided to scrap it when I saw this headline. And this is what it said. And I had to bring notes so that I can make sure that I actually get things right. And it said this, drum roll: Harley Davidson and MotoGP announced new global racing series launching in 2026. First off, I had plans to do a whole episode in the shop. It's been a while since we've been in the shop, and it's fun, and I had content, but you know what? I had to push it aside because when I read this news, and again, let me reiterate, Harley Davidson and MotoGP announced new global racing series launching in 2026. Well, you're wondering, why, Annick? Why would you want to cover this? Well, first off, let's back up and let me tell you about the week that I've been having. So the week started off like this. I was out, and if anybody gets this, you'll understand. I saw a snake somewhere that I didn't want to see a snake, and it scared the bejesus out of me. I'm like, that all would have been fine, but like a few hours later, I was then pursued by the police helicopter. Now, that's a whole other story, and it's a good story as to why somebody would be pursued by a police helicopter. But I'm going to tell you this: if you are not subscribed to the show, I highly recommend you do, because I'm not going to tell that story today. That's going to be in a future episode, and you're not going to want to miss it. So I highly recommend subscribe. And also, don't forget to like this video, because it helps me make more and better content. And if you like what I'm talking about today, you'll even get more of that in the future. Interviews, Annick's take on breaking news, like about the one that I'm about to go into. So, as you can imagine, it's been a week. Then on top of the snake, the helicopter pursuit, there was then 3 ticks. They stink. I hate getting ticks, and this season has been awful. And let me tell you, there are a lot of ticks around. So wherever you go, even if you get off the moto on the side of the road, check yourself later, because you just don't know whether or not you're going to end up with a tick on you. They are just everywhere. Anyway, I digress. You're probably wondering, okay, Annick, why do you care about this, and why is this breaking news? Well, for a few different reasons. Number one, I think that this whole bagger series that Moto America has been putting on for 4 years is the dumbest thing that I have ever seen in racing. There we go, people. I'm putting it out there. Somebody has to make a statement about it, and I know that, there's the love 'em, hate 'em on this one, but I need to share my thoughts on this, because it was one thing for them to be in Moto America, but now to go on the world realm is a whole other thing. So for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about with Moto America and MotoGP, let me give you a little background in motorcycle racing, and particularly road racing. So in the US, Moto America runs the road race series. And worldwide, MotoGP exists, which is Moto Grand Prix. It is to motorcycles what Formula One racing is to cars. It's a big deal. And on the world level, MotoGP is the creme de la creme of motorcycle racing. There's a lot of money thrown into it. It is as fantastic and exciting as Formula One car racing, but for motorcycles. So getting back to Moto America in the US, there are different levels of racing. There's club racing and then obviously pro racing. So Moto America does the pro racing in the US. What people forget about is that Moto America is a for-profit company. And when you run any of these race series, it costs a lot of money. Moto America exists to make a profit off of this, which is totally fine. I have no problem with any company wanting to make a profit. We live in America, for goodness sakes. Like, this is how things work, right? And it gives jobs to people. It provides excitement for the viewers on watching the racing, and it allows people to do what they're passionate about, which is race motorcycles. Like, how fantastic is that? So Great, Moto America exists. And Harley Davidson as a company also exists. I am not a Harley rider, and I'm not opposed to Harleys or anything like that. I do like making fun of Harley, which I have done in the past. To give a little bit of a background just on what this whole bagger series is, about 4 years ago, I don't even really care what the details are, to be honest. Moto America brought on this race series where they call it the Battle of the Baggers, or the King of the Battle of the Baggers, something like that, where they race bagger motorcycles, which are cruisers with a full fairing. And when they say bags, they are bags to put your luggage in and drive down the road. So when you think traditional Harley or cruiser bikes, in your mind, you probably most likely envision some type of bagger, type of cruiser motorcycle. Harley's made these motorcycles for a long time. Other companies make variations of them because they're basically touring motorcycles. Like this is the part where I just can't wrap my head around, and I'm just not a fan of. So I road raced motorcycles years and years and years ago when I first started riding, and it was amazing. I rode a MotoGP motorcycle, 125, in a club series. So I understand and love, like, believe me, I love watching MotoGP racing. I love watching any of the racing. It's super fun, exhilarating, super athletic, and all that. Now, the premise to racing motorcycles, especially road racing, is that you want to have the lightest, fastest motorcycle possible with the most talented racer on that bike, right? That's what wins races. That's what drives innovation. That is what makes the sport exciting, is seeing these guys, especially at the MotoGP level. I mean, the speeds that they're reaching are just like unbelievable. And all of it, it's like a ballet in real time at high speeds. It is amazing. Now, again, baggers are extremely heavy, clunky motorcycles. Nothing about them screams fast. I mean, they have big engines, and yeah, I'm sure on a straight line, they can go fast, okay, relatively. But they're heavy, and they have baggage on them. Metaphorically speaking, there's a lot of baggage on them. And they are meant for touring. So, like, why would you want to take this heavy clunker of a motorcycle and decide to race it? I have always felt that it was this parody. Like, obviously, it was a huge marketing strategy for Harley Davidson to introduce this. And as far as I know, I believe that Indian is also part of the series. It's still mostly around Harley Davidson and the whole brand awareness of Harley Davidson. So I thought when they first did this that this was like completely a marketing scheme. And I still think it is. Let's be honest. I think totally it's a marketing scheme. If you look at Moto America, like, would they say no to that? Absolutely not. As I mentioned, Moto America is a for-profit company, and they want as many people to show up at the races as possible. So they have bills to pay, right? So they're going to want as much sponsorship money to make any of this happen. Somehow this idea came about for this bagger series, which I believe was supposed to be limited, and then they started to do it. Now, I liken this racing to, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Top Gear, the British show, especially the original episodes with Jeremy Clark. And there's this one epic episode where they decide that they are going to race double-decker buses on a racetrack. It is hilarious and ridiculous, right? To see these double-decker buses get, sped across a racetrack. It's insane, and it's really funny, and it's amazing that none of them flip over, okay? I kind of feel like the bagger series is that kind of catch, like, oh, let's see if we can, like, go do this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we made it happen. Isn't that hilarious? Like, oh, this is a funny thing, like, super entertaining. Yay, let's go do this. Cool, okay? Like, once, twice maybe, that would have been fine. But they made a whole series from it. And if you watch the races, like, I don't know, to me, it's like, the fairings are so big that you can't even see the motorcyclists, these racers that are super thin and like super fit behind the fairing. So it's not even that interesting for me to watch any of these races because like you just see the motorcycle going across the track, and if they do a side shot or 3/4 shot, you might see the racer moving around on the bike a little bit, but like for the most part, it's just super boring to me and just dumb. And again, kitschy. Like, I get the kitsch factor because I also, besides like the double-decker ideas, like I also kind of envision it as, you know, in some places they will race lawnmowers, and like those races are super, again, kitschy and super fun to watch. So these races have had success in the US, one would think. But I decided to like look up on Moto America's website, especially, well, in particular their YouTube channel, just to see like how many people were watching the races, because, you know, it exists, and if we are in the world of social media, we can make anything look much bigger than it actually is. So when I went and looked at the Moto America YouTube site, I saw in the last race, which just happened like a week or two ago, that it had maybe about 13,000 views, not that much, and 32 comments. Now, on my videos, I get sometimes more than 32 comments, which is not saying much, in that I just don't think for a Moto America site that like 32 comments is that much. And when I read the comments, which I will post on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube, that they look like they are purposely written for the website, if you catch my drift. Somebody has to say it. So sorry about that, but that's the truth. Why would they decide on this series if it's like not totally gaining traction, but it has like some interest? Again, it's great for social media and like for putting it out there. Why would MotoGP want to do this? So now let's get into MotoGP and Harley Davidson. And I want to read the press release because I had to print it out. And I originally saw this news. I was deciding to take a break and scroll on Instagram, but I saw the press release, which was when I almost fell off the couch being like, they've got to be kidding me that MotoGP has decided to take this on. So again, let's go back to the idea that MotoGP is the creme de la creme of racing. And the amount of money that they put into these motorcycles at the top is exorbitant and ridiculous. And there's a ton of innovation and technology and the pursuit of absolute excellence. So this is what the press release says, and I have to stop and read it. In the press release that was issued between Harley Davidson and MotoGP, this is what they wrote. It was confirmed in Le Mans that Harley Davidson will return to the World Championship in 2026 with a single-make bagger series running alongside MotoGP at 6 rounds next year. Each round will feature 2 bagger races. One round will kick off at the Circuit of the Americas and the other 5 to be held in Europe. The grid is expected to comprise 6 to 8 teams, each fielding 2 riders, supported by Harley Davidson Factory Racing, an official statement read. And this is a quote. "We are looking to establish racing as a core pillar of Harley Davidson," said Jeff Schuessler, Global Director of Motorsports at Harley Davidson. "We have a long heritage inside it, and we believe racing will help us modernize the brand with innovation and technology. We've had 4 years now racing in Moto America with great success, and we have started to rebuild a factory team at our HQ headquarters in Milwaukee. And we're looking to grow that muscle, those abilities, and those skills. We believe with MotoGP, we will be working a lot with them with logistics operations and blah, 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 blah." Anyway, quote, "We believe our history and the fans we can bring to these races, as well as our ability to build these race bikes, taking our learning from King of the Baggers, taking our know-how at Dorna, it's a great opportunity." We all know Harley has not been doing very well over the past few years. And about 5 years ago, they got a new CEO whose name I always forget, is Johan Zetz, who has just recently announced that he is going to retire, but he's going to stay on until they find a new CEO to take his place. I believe this is significant in relation to what's happening with MotoGP. So he came on board in 2020, this president, Zetz. Sorry, people. Sorry on the bad pronunciation. He came on in 2020, which was perhaps like one of the worst times to take over a company during COVID. However, one could argue that, right? At the same time, COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to motorcycling, and it upped the amount of motorcycles sold. So during that time, Harley saw a decline in sales. And I looked some of the stats up because I was curious, like how much had they been suffering? Now, the one thing that Harley has done perfectly over these years, relatively speaking to other companies, is that their branding is just fantastic. And they are the ultimate American brand, right? Everybody knows who Harley Davidson is. So many people wear their clothing, wear anything that says Harley Davidson, having never ridden before or anything like that. And that is incredibly impressive. And I've always thought that Harley's marketing is just done so well. Even with that being said, like selling t-shirts, which is the majority at dealerships where they make their money, there are other issues with the company. And I just did a quick search to just see, like, okay, in 2024, overall globally, Harley Davidson sales were down 15%. That is significant for a company that has shareholders. It's a lot for a company to be down 15%. And that has happened during Johann's time at Harley Davidson. Like, I mean, we could blame it on him. They brought in a German. He got a lot of backlash for not being American because it's such a brand specific to America. But they had high hopes with his background at Puma and globally that he would be able to make a difference at the company. And I am sure, that they have decided to retire him. That somebody like him, you have to understand, like he's good friends with Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Airlines. Him and Branson have some philanthropy thing together. And then Johann also owns like a bunch of other different companies that are philanthropic. So this guy isn't hurting. They say he's retiring. I think it's a great and easy way to let him leave gracefully. But even somebody like this, like his image will never be tarnished completely. I mean, like, he's had success. He's done his thing. He probably knew that Harley wasn't going to be able to be changed that much. So whatever, right? Who knows what the deal was when he came on. But here are some things to know about Harley's sales being down. And these were some of the top reasons why people suspect that the sales have been down. Was one, economic downturn. We know, that economically things have been rough. High interest rates, we know. It's whatever Harley costs, even if it's still 10 grand, you're probably paying an extra 6,000 versus an extra 2,000 that you were paying in interest 5 years ago. So there's that. Lower customer traffic. We saw the boom during the pandemic. Motorcycle sales are starting to go down again. One thing that I found in my research was a term called destocking. And I wasn't familiar with this because I don't follow Harley really. But they said that Harley has been destocking. So apparently during COVID or at some point within like the past 5 to 6 years, they had high inventory at the different dealerships. And then now they are destocking the dealerships and forcing them to sell older models, but not providing newer models. Now, that is like, obviously they're, from a financial standpoint, absolutely forced into doing that based on sales being down. The bad side to that is that it affects consumers, right? Because you don't want to buy the 2023 or the 2024 when every week Harley's coming out with some like 2025 limited edition, this or that. Like they just put out the new Fat Boy, the 2025 Chrome Fat Boy. And if you go to the dealership and it's not there, but all they have is the 2023s, that's disappointing. Like nobody really, it's from a sales perspective, like that I feel for the dealers because that's not fun. And like that's a hard thing to get around if you are a franchise owner. And then another big thing that has been cited, and I did a previous episode, which I will link to, is that people are starting to want to buy more affordable motorcycle options, and that can't be ignored. So all of this has hurt Harley's sales globally. We've seen a downturn in the US, and globally there's also been a downturn. But like I said, 15% is a lot. And they have this CEO, like nobody knows who the next CEO is going to be. And I feel like this MotoGP push is a very weird and fruitless marketing ploy. This collaboration aims to promote Harley Davidson internationally in MotoGP within the US, especially with the anticipated acquisition of this series by Liberty Media. Now, I found that buried on the internet, and I thought that this was actually very interesting, and it kind of adds like a whole nother spin to them wanting to do this very weird limited series. You're like, Annick, what is Liberty Media? Well, let me share with you what Liberty Media is. Liberty Media Corporation, based out of Colorado, owns, ready for this? Formula One, SiriusXM, and Live Nation, to name a few. Their core business involves ownership and operation of media and entertainment assets. Now, with that information, things started to make sense. Like, why would they want to do this? Well, if Dorna, who owns MotoGP, is getting ready to make a sale, and they're going to an American company that already owns Formula One. So the point with this is that we have Liberty Media, which is an American company, must have ties with Harley Davidson and wanting to push and promote an American brand, right? And they know that Harley is so adored in the US and globally, there's heavy interest in Harley, but they're very expensive. Oh, and the other thing that I wanted to say that's going to affect Harley sales globally is definitely this whole tariffs thing, because Harley Davidson is not going to be immune. And I am sure that any foreign company that wants to, or not company, any foreign country that wants to retaliate on tariffs is going to try to hit the most American brands ever, right? And of course, that's going to be Harley. Like, who else is that going to be? Maybe a handful of other ones. I will not be surprised that this is going to heavily impact everything that's happening with Harley Davidson. Now, here, in going back, like, this is where I have a problem with all this. I don't think that this is the right call. In that press release where they were saying that this guy, the global director of motorsports, was saying, you know, it'll help us modernize the brand with innovation and technology. It's not what people go to Harley for. And as we can see demonstrated by Livewire, which was a complete bust, which was supposed to be their electric motorcycle, they put $70 to $80 million into that product line. And it was a complete bust. And if anything, this CEO that they currently have really pushed for that. And I will say that that was probably the worst decision that he ever made. Electric motorcycles are not what Harley riders want. And it was completely demonstrated that this was not what they wanted. The other thing that did not do very well was the whole Pan Am American, which, you know, again, they really tried to push. I mean, the Pan Am thing, they got our favorite international travelers who have a new series out, which is Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman. They did Pan Am American motorcycles. Pan Am American, I'm probably getting it wrong. Pan Am American motorcycles during that trip. And it's just so interesting that, you know, Harley spent all this money on two areas that were supposed to be completely innovative. Now, believe me, I am all for innovation and technology with manufacturing and motorcycles. However, I think that they could be doing it in a different way. And this is where I would put the money versus what they're actually doing, which is that, you know, the tried and true sales for Harley Davidson, their cruisers, their touring models, and the trikes. Stick with what you're good at. If you're going to put innovation, put the innovation towards lighter materials. Okay, you want to do a faster engine? Fine, that's cool. Like, do that. But you're going to put the innovation towards making the electronics and making the GPSs in these motorcycles more sophisticated, easier to use. Like, that's what riders really want. The electric motorcycle is not there yet. If that's like not your wheelhouse, like, don't worry about that. Just put the innovation in the lines that you currently have. In the press release, they also mentioned that Harley has had a racing heritage background. Yes, in the 70s, Harley Davidson did race MotoGP motorcycles, but at that time, the company was very different, and the motorcycles were really different. If you take a look, like Team Obsolete, I believe owns one of the earlier Harley Davidson motorcycles that won a couple of the Grand Prix, and it's super cool. Where Harley Davidson had the most success was in flat track racing. It's a very American type of racing that makes sense with Harley. And if you look at the old Harley flat trackers, They are like really super cool. Now I know that Indian tried to do this by putting out the FJR, and it did not do well, and they actually decided to end production on that motorcycle, which I think is a bummer because they really could. I think they could have pushed that motorcycle more, and if Harley had gotten on board with that and decided to do something along those lines, like I think that they would have had much more success. But for Harley to decide to, with a motorcycle that is so decidedly not at all racing pedigree in any shape, way, or form, Bagger just screams to me, weekend ride, eating potato chips, going out for barbecue, and meeting up for their local hog chapter picnic. It does not on any level scream out to me, let's go race. So I just think they've really done a disservice to themselves to try to push this. And what's going to end up happening in my mind is that I think that this is going to become globally a parody of Americans in racing. And it's just going to be another point of like, oh, look at the Americans trying to do this, right? Like, who wants to watch these big-ass motorcycles being raced? It doesn't make sense. It's fun and kitschy for like 1-2 races. Okay, yeah, I get it. Try that. But otherwise, I feel like with Harley not doing well, like this is just such a waste of money. Put all this that you're investing, because you know that they're paying MotoGP, Dorna, an exorbitant amount of money to be included in the race weekend. Then Harley is going to build these 6 or 8 motorcycles and have, or whatever, let's say they're going to have to build more than that. Let's say that they build a fleet of 20 motorcycles. They're going to have to pay for this and the transport costs and everything involved. Like, it's going to be an extremely expensive marketing ploy. So then I was thinking, like, okay, if, Harley's going to go ahead with this, which they are, I'm like, what would actually make it fun, or what would actually make it exciting? And this is what I came up with. I'm like, okay, Harley, you want to do this and you want to spend the money on this marketing? Instead of getting these top pro athletes, which look ridiculous in full sets of leather, racing these motorcycles, again, behind these fairings where you can't even see them and you can't even understand what athleticism that they are performing at with these motorcycles, I had an idea. And so this is what I'm going to propose. I think that what Harley should do is build these motorcycles, okay? I still think it's stupid that they're going to be a MotoGP, but whatever. Build these motorcycles and instead do a lottery in that anyone can participate in this lottery, meaning that John Smith from Springfield, Illinois can buy a lottery ticket, get his number, and win a shot at being able to take one of those motorcycles and racing it around the track in his jeans, his boots, his local chapter vest, and then go race. Now, how fun would that be? If you get all these global people, normal people who are real Harley Davidson enthusiasts that really would just love to have the opportunity to be able to ride these motorcycles and compete and race, like that, I think, would be fun and exciting. If you're going to just like push this whole kitsch thing, like, let's go there all the way. You know what I'm saying? All the way. Not this like half-ass thing that they're trying to do with like this limited series and let's see how it goes. We know how it's going to go. It's stupid. It's stupid. Like, Harley, MotoGP, I mean, are you guys also desperate for the money? I mean, obviously not. They're getting prepared to sell. So if Liberty Media is behind this and really wants to push this ridiculousness, then like, okay, all of that starts to make sense. I had to share my thoughts on this because when I saw the press release on Instagram, I really was just like, what have we come to? This is like one of the worst marketing ploys that I have ever witnessed in my life. And I just think that, again, Harley's wasting money. I don't think that this is going to bode well for the company. I don't think that it enhanced the brand. It's not like NASCAR where, I guess the saying used to be when the cars were more production oriented that win on Sunday, sell on Monday. It's not happening. I had to just get on and talk about this because I just think it's stupid. And I think it's a waste of money. And I think that they could put their efforts into finding a great CEO and trying to turn this company around as best as they can within this economy. And with that being said, Harley, I just need to let you know that I'm available And if you would like someone who has great marketing and sales experience and manufacturing experience and racing experience, I'm your gal. And I'd be more than happy to try to turn that company around given the opportunity. So just putting that out in the universe. I know I may not, be best friends with Richard Branson, but I know a few fancy people, and, I'm more than happy to meet some more. So anyway, I would love for you guys to share in the comments what you think about this MotoGP collaboration. And lastly, what I would like to just mention about this collaboration is that this press release went out this week, right? So again, I said that this was breaking news. And oddly, nowhere on the Harley Davidson homepage do they even mention that this is something that they're doing, which I find very suspect. And then I went on to Moto America to just take a look and see what they had on their website, and pushed all the way at the very bottom of their homepage was one tiny article that I'm sure tomorrow won't even be there as it gets pushed aside for the news stories coming out. I went to the MotoGP website and they also had nothing on their homepage about this collaboration. So I also find that very suspect, just saying. Anyway, I would love for you guys to let me know, what do you think about the Bagger Series racing? Do you love it? Prove me wrong. I'm all open. I want to understand what people find interesting or even remotely engaging about this type of racing. And do you think that it has a place in MotoGP? With that, as always, my friends, ride smart. Ciao.